We are moving on to the preliminary investigation, and sometime for short form we just call it the PI. Alright, so basically when you are dealing with the preliminary investigation, you need to meet with certain amount of people, particularly managers, key managers that your project is going to be involved with. They are users, okay, usually they're seasoned user that understand their process, and of course the IT personnel in your department that is going to handle the system, probably the developers or the persons that is going to operate the system or manage it. So what actually happens during the preliminary investigation? Well, there is a six particular phase to go through. The first is to understand the problem, or it may not actually be a problem, but it could be an opportunity. All right. Companies sometimes want to solve problems, so they create new projects, all right, to try to overcome the problems. Or sometimes projects are created because there is a potential opportunity to tap. And during the PI, okay, the system analysts have to properly define the project scope. Right, so what it actually covers, right, what is outside the boundary of the project. Okay. This will give you the ability to budget the projects later on. Okay. But at the same time, the system analysts also have to define the constraint. What should not be done, or what could not be done, all right, maybe because technologically it is not possible, all right, or perhaps the organization in that particular situation is not ready. The next step actually will be the fact finding itself. All right, so you go through a process of interview, observation. You will go through a process of reading up the procedures on available documentation, handing out surveys, getting feedbacks from the end user. And with all this information, you go into a feasibility study. So is this project feasible? Is this project actually feasible? If it's not feasible, then the project's idea will end over here. You will not proceed any further. Okay, but if the project is deemed feasible, then it moves forward. Next, you have to identify how much time is going to take to develop this. All right, and how much are you going to spend developing this particular system? All right, so it's time and cost. Okay, and this will give you a judge whether does it actually make sense, because certain project could take too long to develop and you may lose the opportunity. So in that case, it doesn't really make sense to proceed, or perhaps the cost will be somewhat high and the available budget is not there for the organization. All right, and all this will be presented definitely, all right, to the management, not just in raw figures. Okay, then the SA, all right, the system analyst also have to provide a recommendation. All right, so does the SA say, well, I believe it, all right, maybe it's not a good idea, all right, maybe we could even scale down into different phases, all right, for this particular project, cover only certain phase and certain phase or certain features leave it out, or we can go into standard packages, turnkey system, alright, or even outsource. Okay, so there is many recommendation that is available to the system analyst, right, to suggest to the management.